Welcome to today's partner education event, Boost Mentorship Recruitment through Orientation. We have lots of great resources for you today, including many stories from your peers. So let's go ahead and get started. A few housekeeping notes as we get going here. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send you the recording and some additional educational resources in a follow-up email after this event. You can also always find the recordings of our partner education webinars in our Partner Knowledge Center. It's linked at the bottom of the screen there, help.mentorcollective.org. On the screen, you'll see a few tips to help ensure a smooth virtual experience with you today. You might want to adjust your video layout to speaker view so that you can see the slide deck and also our presenter faces when we chat with our guests in just a bit. And we'd love to know where everyone is coming from. So feel free to share your name, your institution in the chat. Let us know if it's snowing by you or sunny, and where you're calling in from. Throughout the session, you can drop questions in the chat. You can also use the Q&A feature that is open for you as well. And we'll also open up at the end of each of our partner presenters for questions if you'd like to come off mute and share your voice, your question at that point. And then again, at the end of the webinar, we'll also come off, we'll create the opportunity for you to come off mute and ask questions live then as well. And we also really encourage you to use those reactions feature on Zoom throughout the session to keep things fun. It is fun for me to see how you all are feeling about the content, and it's fun for our peers too. So keep things lively. We love those reactions. Javi is calling in from Spain, so there's no snow there. I would love to be in Spain right now, Javi. It sounds great. All right. So, my name is Jennifer Caius. I am Mentor Collective's Customer Education Manager. I create education opportunities here at MC that support building strong mentorship initiatives at your institutions that drive impact. I'll be facilitating this session and sharing some best practices and examples from some of our partners before we turn it over in the second half of our session to our fabulous guest speakers to learn more about how they've leveraged orientation at their own institutions. We're delighted to have Regina McCoy from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, as well as Abigail Fouts and Dr. Kelly Weneg from the University of Wisconsin Stout. In today's session, we will be talking about orientation. So, how orientation can be a valuable way to recruit mentorship participants. By the end of today's session, you will learn how to connect your recruitment efforts to your institution's broader student success strategy. We have lots of great information there. Strategies to market your mentorship initiative and in ways that are creative and clever and the student voice participant centered. How to ensure your approach to recruitment is cross-functional, collaborative, and again, participant-centered. And then examples, templates, things that you can use next day as part of your strategy to make recruitment bigger and have a broader impact at your institution's orientation this year. Again, you'll get access to the recording from today's event, and then also all of those templates and examples and follow-up messaging. And be sure to click into that follow-up message so that you are able to see, we have a library of resources for you that we'll include there. So make sure you click into that messaging. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to start with how to build a successful recruitment strategy. So, what does successful recruitment look like? There are many ways to impact recruitment successfully. We see themes like the ones that are on this slide pop up repeatedly with partners who experience success in their recruitment. These themes can be used as part of your overall recruitment strategy. So maybe orientation is just a sliver of that overall strategy. For example, we know that providing students with multiple opportunities to engage with mentorship right from the beginning of their student experience really increases their understanding of the value of mentorship, as well as their awareness of what mentorship opportunities exist overall at their institution, whether they're with Mentor Collective or not, just increasing the awareness and an understanding of the importance of mentorship. Being mindful of this when you're creating a recruitment strategy means that you might ensure students are hearing about mentorship through many touch points, right? So, including at orientation, maybe from other students, maybe in spaces where students tend to show up. That might even mean something like tabling in the parking lot for commuter students, right? So, being really creative and thinking about where are students showing up, where are they going to hear about mentorship? One of our 2-year partners has shared how they actually increased participation by paying mentors just to hang out in highly trafficked areas, areas that were trafficked by potential mentees. So I believe this was actually in a tutoring center. So mentees would come in and they would see mentors right there, and the mentors were able to talk about the value of mentorship, help out with some homework, and ensuring there was always a student available drove quite a bit of interest in their program, and they saw an increase in participation due to this. Another partner that we have, a small 4-year institution, has a strategy that really guarantees that every single incoming student hears about mentorship right from the beginning, right from day one. When a student initially deposits at this school, they get access to a portal that contains their new student onboarding requirements. And one of the very first items at the top of that list is to register for their mentorship program. These are examples of strategic and participant centered approaches, which if you have attended any of our past partner education webinars, you know me, and you know that I talk a lot about culture of mentorship, and you'll know that participant centered approach, a strategic approach, those are elements that lead to an institution wide culture of mentorship. And Jess, Director of Partner Success, is on the call here as well, and she'll be dropping in the chat a link to that Partner Knowledge Center article on all 6 elements of the institution-wide culture of mentorship. Ultimately, successful recruitment may vary depending on the specific needs of your unique institution, but ideally, it's a collaborative effort that employs multiple initiatives. So, something strategic, something keeping the participant forward, thinking through what is going to make the biggest impact and allow folks to know the value of mentorship right from the start. All right, before we get to our guest speakers, I want to pull out the stories of 2 of our other partners who have seen quite a bit of success with recruiting through orientation. They had some clever strategies that I wanted to share with all of you. I thought could be really helpful in when you're creating your own recruitment strategies. So, Augusta University in Georgia has leveraged several strategic approaches to recruitment through orientation specifically. Their JAGS for JAGS program is part of their orientation curriculum. So there is a mentorship opt-in added to the enrollment checklist for all new students, similar to that for your institution that I mentioned earlier. They've also employed some really creative ideas that are very participant centered, such as marketing in the student voice during orientation. It's been really important for students to hear from other students the value of mentorship and what the JAGS for JAGS program can do for them. So, in this clip, Augusta's Mark Myers, who's Director of New Student and Family Transitions at Augusta, will talk more about their student led marketing efforts.
We're really fortunate to have a graduate assistant that she was able to kind of split her time between our orientation programs and our mentorship program, and integrating mentorship as the norm of the university. And so they have come up with lots of like very cute and clever marketing campaigns. I think right now they're doing like Instagram reels. That they go to, and that we have our orientation leaders, our student coordinators, go out with like a mini mic series and ask people that are mentors or mentees what their experience is and why they should get involved. Um, Something that I'm like super excited about that I think is going through this week. We do have we're starting a JAGS for JAGS student organization as well, which will have a club structure to also help this really be driven by students for students. Because right now, the last year, I think I have a lot of really creative ideas, but when I've given them to my students, they're able to take them to the next level.
Okay. So I love that. Augusta hosts several events during orientation to drive program excitement. They have something called a launch week. This whole clip with Mark is great. You can find it in our Partner Knowledge Center as well. But the launch week is something where they host tabling events and cookouts, as well as running their social media campaigns to engage students who are both on the campus and off the campus. And you heard with those Instagram reels, they're doing a mini mic series, which is so cool, so clever. So they'll go out with a mini mic and they'll ask students, their student will ask other students, what does mentorship mean to you? How excited are you about the mentorship program this year? What can mentorship do for you? Or all, tell us a story about mentorship. And then they put that on social, and the kids really love that, right? So it's drove excitement and engagement into their program and encouraged people to participate. I also want to call out that Mark and his team have created, you heard him say that Jags for Jags student club. That is really clever. They essentially turned their mentorship initiative into a student-led club. The club advertises alongside every other student activity during orientation and other events throughout the year. And the students are empowered because it's a student-led club, with guidance, but it's a student-led organization. They're empowered to promote, recruit, engage participants on their own terms to support their club. So these efforts have really paid off, and Augusta has seen very high recruitment and engagement rates over the past several years. So some clever strategies there that I thought would be helpful for all of you. All right, another story that I want to highlight is at the University of Rhode Island. URI uses strategic messaging leading up to orientation, like an interest survey that allowed for a big summer recruitment push. Frequent communications with students over the summer led to an awareness of their program, even before students came to the campus. So they were primed and interested in mentorship before they even showed up at orientation. Once they were at orientation, URI advertised mentorship through flyers with registration, QR codes, and their student orientation packets. They presented about mentorship during their orientation programming. And then they also did something so simple that had such a big impact, and I think is so brilliant. They just talked with parents, right? So they walked with parents, they walked across campus with folks. I'll let Brienne Nepton, who is formerly from URI, talk a little bit more about this in this clip. So here we go.
Jen Dean Riley has incorporated Mentor Collective, the peer program, into how she talks to parents. And so the way URI does their orientation, it's a 2-day, and student and parents have their own orientation. They get to talk to different elements of the campus, including the dean. And so the dean makes it a critical component when she's talking to them. And she tells them specifically, this is happening. Tell your child, tell everyone, tell your child they need to look out for these emails. They should be registering now. There are different points during the orientation process when the dean is talking to the parents. So they're walking from place to place together. We have lunches with them. And so it's part of the entire conversation. So that way the parents know, the guardians know that this is something that's happening, and they're pushing their child to think about it, see it. So we probably have about 90% of our students registered before they even get to campus.
I love that. So 90% of their students are registered before they even show up for the term in the fall. So yeah, again, talking with parents at orientation, engaging them in those one-to-one conversations really paid off in helping students and their families understand, again, the value of mentorship, right? No one's going to sign up if they don't think it's valuable. So understanding right from the beginning what value mentorship can bring to them, and getting the parents engaged in that conversation with their children. This led to an institution-wide culture of mentorship at URI, and really ensured their program saw recruitment success.
Jen Dean.
All right, so when considering which initiatives you want to pursue to drive recruitment, such as what you specifically at your institution, what you choose to do at orientation, it's important to keep in mind that end game, right? So the end game positively impacting student outcomes. Ahead of hearing our guest speakers in just a sec, I wanted to share some of the why behind what drove students at their institutions to ultimately sign up as either a mentee or a mentor. And I want to call out, you can find stories just like this from your own students right on your partner dashboard using the community page. And Jess is going to drop that link in the chat so you can find that on your partner dashboard. This is a great way to better understand your students and why they want to do mentorship, right? So when you are creating your strategy, keep in mind what is motivating them, what is their why do they think mentorship is valuable, and using these stories to fuel that knowledge can really help in your strategic approach. Here we see Elijah from UNCG shared that he signed up as a mentee because he was looking to be more prepared for college. Josie from UW Stout signed up as a mentee because she wanted support transitioning into college. Madison from UW Stout joined as a mentor because she wanted to help students with their sense of belonging, right? All three of these stories are tied to student outcomes. And these are familiar stories, right? We hear these stories over and over again at all of our institutions. And these motivations can be targeted by the right recruitment strategies right from the start, right from orientation. And this is again why taking a participant-centered approach from the very beginning is so important. If you're designing recruitment efforts around the experiences and the needs of your students, you're ensuring that mentorship feels relevant, feels accessible, and feels valuable to them, which ultimately drives stronger engagement. So with all of that, I'm going to turn it over to our first partner presenter today. I'd love to start with Regina McCoy from UNCG. Regina is Associate Vice Provost for Retention and Student Success at the university, and we are so honored to have you here with us today, Regina.
Thank you so much. And I really am excited to hear about all the ways that everyone is using orientation to help build that mentoring program that you have. And we know that it takes a lot to keep that momentum of the mentoring program going. So you've heard a lot about all the successes out there, how to get it into orientation, what it takes. I want to talk a little bit about when you're implementing your successful mentoring program, some of the challenges, right? So a lot of times you hear about all the things that works. I want to help you understand how we worked through some of the challenges that we faced and some of the strategies to get through those challenges. So here at UNC Greensboro, what we do is we have about 18,000 students. We have about 3,700 students who are our first year students, FTIC students, basically first time in college. But we also have about 1,800 new transfer students. And today we have both mentoring programs, one for our transfer students and another for our first time in college students. I want to talk about the first time in college students because it is the one that makes the biggest impact on our retention and also on our graduation rates. We're seeing that those who start with mentoring graduate within that 4 to 5 year time frame that we're really hoping for. So you already know how it works. We all are signed in and love it. There are some things that can go right and some things that can go wrong. First thing, always start with helping your student population understand why mentoring is so important. We tell them why we had mentors and how we benefited from the mentors. We also talk about how it's going to help them with their pathway to success. I am the one that gets up first thing in the orientation program and says, just like in an Oprah strategy, like you get a mentor, right? Everyone will get a mentor. And then we introduce it with our QR code. So let me tell you the first challenge there, right? We got to make sure our Wi-Fi is boosted up and works. I know it sounds like that's not a big deal. It is because everyone that's coming to orientation, we have about 9 to 10 orientation sessions. They begin in June. We know that these are parents and students who alike who come in and they're using their phones and they're clicking on the big screen or in the resource manual where we also have our QR code, and many of them cannot link to it. So we always had to remember to put the not only the code, but also how to type out a short, tiny link so that they can sign up right away. The other thing is scheduling. So as an associate vice provost, orientation is in my portfolio, and that's key. You want to go up as high as possible in your ranks so that you can have some buy-in from administration. And then I can also make sure that our team is ready to fit this into the schedule. Everyone wants to get into the orientation schedule, y'all. Why not? You want to be the first one to say to students, hey, try this. This is important. But the issue with that is we know that all of those things are important, but our mentors, if they start with that mentoring program and they have that mentor, we are feeding in resources all the time through our mentors and their mentee pairs. So if you have something that's in your academic units, our mentees are receiving some of that not only through the unit, but also through conversations with their mentor. So we help everyone understand we got you, we're going to fit you in. We have small group sessions that happen throughout the day, but buy in first is with our mentoring program. So we highlight that right away. We make sure that's front and center. So that does take that can be a challenge if you aren't the one that is reporting to the provost office who owns kind of the orientation programs. The other piece is funding. I like that I heard here that we are paying some of our mentor payers, and we do as well. We didn't do that until our second year. We realized even $100 makes a difference. It gets buy-in. Those students see that, they know that it's coming, they anticipate it, and we also use that as a carrot to kind of say, okay, you get this in April if you meet these metrics. But that also means on the other side that you have to have the funding. We have right now through all of our programs, if I look at all of our mentoring programs, we would be potentially paying about 1,000 students. And that can be pretty costly. And we hope that it's going to grow as well. So advocacy for a budget reallocation, engagement of advancement office for us. I work with our donors and we ask our donors to specifically help us with how do we help with this mentoring pair because they know they have mentors as well. They also want to mentor, and they also know that it's part of student success. It's a promising practice. So we do have some small financial incentives that would help with student participation. One of the other challenges, I think that it's important to start right away, whether you're in your second or third year or you're just starting, is to think about staffing. We have had some budget reductions over the last 4 years in our UNC system. Some of you may have had budget reductions as well. So when I'm going to our chancellor, our president, and our provost to say, hey, I need more funding, they may look at this as not the area to fund. But they understand that now because they're seeing through our Power BI databases how this is important. I can show them that data. So if you're going to need dedicated staffing, you got to prioritize. Let's say you can't do that. There's the last year where it was difficult for me to keep that person who was going to stay just in staffing or mentoring, dashboard and connectiveness and engagement, event planning, all of that. That's where our graduate assistant comes in. And we try to get a peer-like grad assistant to staff it. And then we also used mentor ambassadors. These were mentors from the previous years who we then just give a flat fee for each month. And they then are key to working with our individual colleges. So we have about 5 colleges or schools that are linked to our undergraduate students. And we make sure we have one per college. Now, of course, they're not reaching all those students, but they're reaching the students targeted. We have really some tailored programming, some tailored messaging to those unique groups. We make sure that there is mentor-mentee engagement. We are still having students who, even post-pandemic, are having a tough time with coming back to campus for programs. So we make sure we also have online engagement, and we've learned to keep it very short. I know it sounds like, why are we going to schedule something that's just 30 minutes that only has game-like activities in it? It's because the students will check in for 30 minutes. 25 minutes is really what we plan, and they get excited about having their kaboot or their kadoodle kind of gaming that just talks about what's happening in the mentor pairs and what resources and events are around. So we've learned that staffing is great, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to lean into keeping graduate students, because we know with our graduate students that it really helps that peer to peer keep them engaged more so than if I had a staff person who is carving out sometimes to get this done. So that helped us in those budget lean years. Marketing and visibility is absolutely key. And so I want to tell you, if you don't know your own story, then you got to start to sing your own song. It's important that you spread that awareness all throughout campus and that you also make sure that it's coordinated. So I'm on a high level, right? I'm going to make sure that it's out on our webpage. We're going to make sure that we have our marketing and communication team do something that is broad. But I also want to make sure that those small colleges and schools, those academic units, all the way down to the department level, they know that we're celebrating their advisees, their majors, their students in these mentoring bonds. So sometimes that may mean our ambassadors are sending out, this is the mentor pair of the month, or just giving updates of numbers, or showing how a mentor helped a mentee in a specific way. For our mentor ambassadors, doesn't take a lot of time. I know a lot of us are leaning into social, like our websites, our social engagement with Instagram or even any other ones that are out there. But really, it's still that email communication that we send out, and then that email gets linked to someone else, and they're sending it to their parents, and their parents are sending it. Do you see the point? It's shared, it goes broadly. And then that's when we found out in the middle of semesters, students are still trying to sign up to get mentors because they heard through the grapevine the success stories, the impacts of our mentor pairs. We also get our student organizations involved too. And I don't just lean into the Student Government Association. Those are the leaders of the leaders, right? Love them. They're amazing students. I want the everyday student who sometimes doesn't be a part of or get to be a part of SGA. I want that student that's in the knitting club. I want that student who's out there gaming and they have that gaming club. And so we have ways of engaging them with our mentor ambassadors too. So we leverage all of that to get institutional buy-in. I know that sounds like a clippy word, that how do you get institutional buy-in? It's just one email at a time. And it's making sure that you're in front of departments, you're in front of those different groups that are really going to help you see the success and build that success as well. So I have a little bit more time. I want to talk about how do you build that culture of mentorship? For us, it was linked not only to our strategic plan, but it was also linked to what we found with our accrediting bodies. Most of us, all of us, are a part of accrediting bodies, right? Whether it's your middle states or Northwest or higher learning. Mine is SAC-COC, or the Southern Association. And we decided that because our QEP, Quality Enhancement Plan, which is required for SAC-COC, we decided that we're going to make sure that it's linked to that as well. So now I'm linking back to how to get buy-in. If you know that you got to do your accreditation, you have to have something that is about student success and engagement, then go ahead and link it there so your argument for institutional buy-in, for funding, is so much easier, because we want our accrediting body, we want our accreditation, and so we need this to make sure that we're meeting our goals for that. So we have established how mentorship is meeting our student success goals. And again, back to, you're going to hear a little bit later about data driven or data impact on your mentoring program. You got to have that data to inform why this is going to link to student success. The other piece that I would bring up is also administrative leadership. So again, as the Associate Vice Provost, in my title is retention and student success, so it absolutely makes sense. How do you make sure that your provost office, your chief operator for your academic units, understands that they also need to elevate mentorship? What we've done is we've gotten videos from our leadership to say, hey, this is great. Our chancellor adores having our mentors be a part of some of their campaigns. Our chancellor in particular has a golf cart that he's trying to get pimped out, y'all. We won't talk about that. But he has a golf cart that he drives around and he picks up students. He also has days where if he sees a student on campus that does not have a UNCG sweatshirt or has somebody else's sweatshirt, he's going to give you a t-shirt and he's going to ask you to wear it right then and there. So we have ways. When he does that, he also brings them to the golf cart and then he says, one time, tell me about your mentor. And there it is, folks. That student just, we happened to plant, no, we didn't plant that student. That student then talked about how they have this mentoring pair, and they really spoke to how it made a difference for them, and in particular, reaching academic resources. They spoke about that academic self-efficacy, that not feeling really quite able to do things, or how I'm not going to seek help when I first started. And then by having a mentor, I realized seeking help actually makes sense and it's a self-care effort. So it was just magic. So that promoted our mentoring program and it went through the roof. We could see just through the dashboard how that little blip, all of a sudden the numbers went up. And if you're like me, I love the dashboard. I love to see those numbers go up as well. So, just to really remind you, if you don't have your story, tell your story. And when you tell that story, tell it over and over again. And make sure you have strategies that keeps that woven. That story is woven into everything. And I don't want you to burn out. I want you to have a way so that others want to tell your story as well. And what we're looking forward to is how do we get that alum to, once they cross that finish line, to also come and tell that story so that they can see themselves as a mentee in their first year in Spartans First across that line. That's also important too, not just getting year to year, but also getting across that line. The other piece is just schedule your presentations. You don't have to do them. Remember, you've got mentor ambassadors or you have mentors, train them up, have them go into the academic unit. I was a faculty member for over 20 something years before I came into administration. We don't treat students the same way we treat each other. We treat each other well, but when students come in, we really want them to shine. So having a mentor pair in front of a department, they love it. They eat it up. And that presentation was exactly 3 slides because we wanted them just to see the mentors and the mentees interact and talk. And it helped us. It helped us with making sure that our department saw that this was useful and important. And then the last thing, make sure you get that funding. And even if it's $100, the first year we started with $100, I want you to know that made a difference. We grew to the largest we've given through some years through other mentoring programs. Our transfer student mentoring program is about $500. And that was because that year we had something from a donor. Don't promise that money. Just say, hey, this is a great program. And if you have it, oh, that's the cherry on top. The students will tell the other students and they'll start to get engaged. So those are some of the challenges we faced, and those are some of the ways that we really built in cross-functional approaches. We're still working on it. We're still finding ways to be successful. We're still knocking away some of those challenges. And if you have any questions, I look forward to answering those later. Jennifer, any other things you think I might be able to talk about here?
Regina, I'm just so struck with how fantastic that was. There was so much there, right? There's so many things that you could pull out there. I especially want to call out what you had said about this starting with it's just one email at a time, right? Like these catchy phrases, and you heard me say this in the first part of this session is institutional strategy, right? Or institution-wide impact. That could be really scary, right? Especially if you're just starting out or you're up against some of the challenges that you had faced with your program, right? Like if you're overwhelmed by those challenges, thinking about creating institutional impact can sometimes seem daunting. So just reminding ourselves that it starts with one email at a time. It starts slow, do what you can, and go from there. I think that's such an important message.
Yes, if you can't do too much, find that one area of retention that you're concerned about, and maybe that's the academic unit that you focus in on right away. Get your wins early on, and then you've got that one academic unit that's bought in that first year. They're going to help you with the other academic units as well. So thank you for highlighting that. That's really important.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Uh, well, we're going to move on to our next partner presenter. So thank you, Regina. If folks have questions for Regina, please ask in the chat, or if you want to come off mute, you can ask at the end of the session as well. So we're going to transition now to our partners at University of Wisconsin Stout. We're joined again by Dr. Kelly Winnig from or Director of Academic Advising, and Abigail Fouts, Stout MentorLink Coordinator. So I'll turn it over to all of you now to talk a little bit more about your program.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And I just wanted to say, Regina, thank you again for everything you say. I was taking some notes and scribbling a million things down while you were talking there. So yeah, I just want to give a high-level overview of where MentorLink is on our campus and what we're trying to get to. And Abby works very closely developing all of our programs, and she can talk about some of the specific strategies that we're working on. But in overall, we are a small to mid-sized institution in the upper Midwest. We're a polytechnic institution, and we had MentorLink before COVID, and the program was going great. And then COVID really tanked our ability to continue this. We have a very on-campus, hands-on population. So when students went home, it hurt our ability to recruit. So now we're working very specifically to re-recruit and build our base of student mentors back up. And Abby has done a fantastic job, and I'll call out Javi. I know he's floating around here. Javi, you're the man. Javi and Abby have worked so hard to help us rebuild our foundation of mentors. And this year, for the first time, we are going to assign a mentor to every new student that signs up for our summer registration automatically. And that's going to allow us to get in front of these students even before they know they need the help. And we are going to be able to tell the story to them rather than them having to come back and ask us. So some of the things that we've done in the past is we use MentorLink in our summer registration. That's what we did last year. We had to make sure that we had enough mentors to do this, but we put it in our summer presentation links so that we could make sure that they all had a chance to go do this. But then once we increased our numbers from 80 students to 250 students, we're expecting to pull in more mentors this year. And now we're going to do a couple of other things, but we're also going to be able to automatically assign them. And just like Regina was saying, this ties into an overall student success structure on our campus, because one of our biggest problems on our campus, just like everywhere else, is students have a hard time communicating with each other. So what we're doing is shifting our MentorLink matching to the spring before summer registration, so that we can get these students matched so a new incoming first year student can talk with a college student and ask questions before summer registration, because every college student at every campus, wherever they are, says FIRO is too overwhelming. There's too much information, and they're stressed because they don't know who any of these people are. It's a new environment, so they're like trying to deal with all these external things that's not even relevant to the information. So our goal is to help lower that amount of stress before they even get onto campus for that summer registration. And having our mentors help them with that and answer those questions, and at least bring that stress down a little bit, so they have more, brain power for those other things. So more capacity for some of those other things that we're telling them, and with our entire goal of making the information that we give them much more memorable and important, so they are not confused when they show up in the first day of classes 2 months later. Like, it's all designed to just be another layer of support from them to make that transition as smooth as possible. So Abby, if you wanted to talk specifically about some of the things that we're doing, I don't want to steal your thunder. This is Abby's great work, and I want to let her talk more about it.
Gosh, that's quite an introduction. Thank you, Kelly. Well, part of what my duties on campus as well are, I also coach in athletics. So I have that kind of dual purpose here with my job. So I get to leverage athletics as well as working with academic advising. So I get a cool viewpoint of being grossly involved in the academic side of things as well as the athletic side of things. So kind of seeing that first person perspective through my athletes is also, I feel, a valuable part of coordinating MentorLink on campus. So part of the thing that we're trying to work with in terms of the data informed approach is, initially we started probably too late for our recruiting efforts because just of the time frame that we were working with and trying to figure out how do we just get this program off the ground. We were far too late. So that was in like October, and that was just a slow year. And then we bumped it up to enrolling mentors as they were essentially leaving for the summer, and then getting folks registered during orientation to be mentees. And now we are looking at well over 100% improvement of not only participation, but also mentors just engaging with their mentees, and just also frequency. So we're seeing more folks throughout the year that are actually reaching out, asking their mentor for something. And we also, as we're trying to get them to understand it's very attainable to be a mentor, to have multiple mentees, we give them the different strategies of, this is what you can talk to them about at this point in time, or midterms are coming up here. Especially these first year students, it's very stressful. Some of them are first generation college students. We have a large population of those folks on campus, and we're trying to help them make college more attainable and achievable, and just see that it can be manageable, and they have that person on campus that can help them. Some of our mentors do meet in person. I mean, some of them actually share a major, so they're able to kind of connect over that and just help each other out. That's what works for them. And we've also seen those mentorships produce mentors in the future from those mentees. So now we're using a lot of what Javi gives us every other week, which is an amazing form of, for us to just see a different route of the kind of progress that we're able to see, is just what those different conversations look like, the flags that are reported, and how often do we need to be interacting with our mentors. Try to give them different methods of what to reach out with. Some of them just kind of dry up with what to do in terms of their communication. So we give them the opportunity to have a conversation starter. How do they go about these things, and try to make it just that much more manageable. I mean, just from last year to this year, where we've seen already well over 100% in the more than 3 conversations for mentorship pairs. And that for us is a really big step forward, which is also why we wanted to move up our timeline for the orientation bit. We have shifted the timeline so that we are actually recruiting mentors essentially now. And then we're going to be assigning folks before the orientation begins. And then during orientation and the weeks leading up to it, we're able to have those mentees be asking our on-campus folks those questions, those important things, as mundane as, what do I wear? Who do I bring? Is lunch provided? You know, things like that, that maybe they don't read their email as much as we want them to be prepared for orientation, but they do have that person who has been in their shoes, who knows the drill, who wants to help them, who has signed up for this program to help people. And we want people to give that information. We've tried to give as much empowerment for our mentors to feel that they can do that, especially as different students, different situations, they might just roll into orientation and be there on the wrong day. They just don't know what the heck is going on. So we try to give them opportunities as mentors and mentees to use each other so that they can have as smooth a transition into college as possible. And that honestly has really helped us from last year to this year. And we're very excited to start this new time frame. We might be pushing Javi a little on his limits, but you know, I think he's excited to work with us on that as well. But I don't know, Kelly or Jen, if there's anything I need to cover a little bit more, please let me know.
Yeah, I was just gonna to add a couple of things on. So like we are taking a very intrusive approach. That's why we're matching students before they get here. But then anybody that does fill out the matching survey, if they do choose to get a new mentor, we're gonna allow that as well. And then any student that comes after summer registration, we're going to find them and we're going to see if they can, if they want to do a mentor link. But then we are going to match them. Like every student on our campus is going to get matched. And we're going to take an intrusive approach to that. And they don't have to respond, but we're going to make sure that they know that there is someone out there connecting with them. And then we're also, you know, I run the first year advising center. We have a communication campaign that goes out. We are going to continue, we're going to work with MentorLink and make sure the messages that the mentors are sending out are matching what we're doing here. So we're our campus is starting to pull in the same direction. When you pull in the same direction, you can get a lot done very, very quickly. And that's what we're really working on. So like there are lots of things, and please ask any questions about this. We could talk about this for a long, long time. But making sure that you have a coordinated messaging campaign with your support offices, and making sure that you're getting in front of many students as possible. I love the idea of going into classrooms and asking for volunteers. That might be our approach next year. And then the other thing too, we are working with to our problem as we rebuild our program is to make sure we have enough mentors, and we're using we're using student workers and making it a part of their job duties, so they're already getting paid for it, and because we don't have a budget for it, so they're already getting paid for it. They're working with 3 to 4 students. It's not a ton of time that it takes, and it's something nice to do. So finding our campus partners who have lots of student employees, housing in particular has been wonderful, and they have a lot of student employees that have offered to help us, like making sure that we have enough mentors that are active and we train them. And then if some people are not as effective as others, we'll let those supervisors decide maybe this person doesn't have to join our program as quickly. Like, it's not a requirement of the job, it is a strong suggestion of the job. And then those supervisors will be able to decide who they want to include and who not, based on their experience with those staff members. And that's something that I learned I just talked to them last month about this whole process. So there are so many moving parts to this, but leveraging your campus partners, pulling in the same direction, and really thinking long-term about what your goal is. For our goal, it's to simplify summer registration so students get more information that they need, and then get connected to that person that can help with that. Get help so that can connect with a person who knows the information that they need. So thank you.
One thing I'll add too is we're very fortunate to be able to have some student workers come on with us as well. So not only are they mentors in our program, but they have been a really big part of driving the different timing and the different communications that we can leverage for not only our recruitment, but also just for engagement throughout the year. Our student worker has met with different mentors throughout the year just to talk about the program, talk about different issues, talk about successes. And then he'll bring that to us and say, well, I just chatted with this mentor and this is what they're experiencing and what they think. And so we're able to have that kind of on the ground person who's not only directly involved with the program, but is very invested in the program as it moves towards the future. So they have been able to kind of change with us and inform us because of what they're doing within their role, and also being funded to do that, and being able to actually have someone who's very energetic and very excited about the program help us figure out, okay, what's good timing? What do you think in terms of just being a student? Is this going to be beneficial? And then on top of that, how do you as a student want to help us create this new timeline and make it good for everybody involved? So they've been a big part of that as well. And man, we've given them a lot of autonomy in that, and trusting that they know what they're talking about, and that we know they're going to keep the program in good hands as well.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. I am just so struck by all of these strategies. There's so much here. This has been so fantastic. I love the pull out earlier that y'all said about the feeling of overwhelm that a student might have going into orientation. And so being able to support them before they even get to orientation, and then have someone, like you're saying, walk through the process with them and provide them with support as an ongoing model of support. And then also leveraging those other organizations like housing and whatnot throughout your campus to be able to provide support in those spaces as well. It's fantastic, as well as using data and your dashboard to drive your strategy. There's so much here. There's so much. So I'm really hopeful that folks in the audience, we have a large group here today, and I hope that if you are watching the recording of this or sharing this at your institution, that you are able to pull out even a small sliver of this and use some of this in your own strategies. I just can't thank Regina, Abigail, Kelly. I can't thank you enough for this. It's so great. We have some upcoming virtual events here, as always. We have 2 Ask the Expert sessions in March. We know that conversations with your institution stakeholders are coming up in spring, as both Regina, Abigail, and Kelly all talked about. It's important to have buy-in from others on your institution about the value of your mentorship program. And so we know that those conversations are happening, and we would love to help you make a data-informed approach there. So if you are interested in coming to a very small group, it's very informal. Our in-house data expert, Emily Boisia, attends these, and she provides support in everything from if you're looking to make a pivot table, if you want to know how to do an XLOOKUP, if you want to know how to figure out how an impact analysis works. All of that is covered. It's all questions that you're welcome to ask there at our small groups. So I'll drop the links for those sessions in the chat. We'll also have a webinar in March about the participant experience. So showing everything from training and messaging. You heard Kelly and Abigail talk a little bit about the messaging and working in collaboration with MC and the messaging we send out. So you'll see all of that there. And you heard Regina talk a little bit about this as well with the participant experience, looking at those conversations and training. So that will all be shared at the webinar in March. We also have a career partner for our 2-year partners, a meetup planned in March. So if you are a career partner, you're welcome to join that. And then finally, we're really excited about our HBCU community event, community experience series. We have a series of 3 events for our HBCU partners throughout the spring, and it's a chance for HBCU partners to get together and talk about the common challenges and opportunities that they've had in their mentorship programs, as well as guided conversation with 3 partner presenters. So drop the links to all of that in the chat. I also am dropping the link to the recruitment materials library, which is a fantastic resource. It has examples, templates, one pagers, everything that you could use, QR codes, social media posts, examples, all of that from other institutions, and you can just copy what they have used. Our partners have given us permission to share that with you so that you could make it really easy in employing some of these strategies at your own institution. And then lastly, of course, the link to the partner knowledge center. So all kinds of information there, including this recording, will be there forever to support you in your recruitment needs. All right, before we leave, I just have a quick poll for everyone. I'd love to hear your experience about today's event, how valuable the webinar was for you. You should have a pop-up on your screen. If you could take that, it would help me very much to be able to plan the next events. Your feedback is super valuable to me. It's why we even created this webinar, right? Hearing from you, knowing that you would value some information on orientation. So please fill that out. Let me know what you think. I'll give you like a minute or so to fill that out. Thank you so much. All right, and if you filled that out, thank you again. And I am just so excited about today's session. I can't wait to pull out everything that was said. I'll send it in follow-up messaging. I really hope that y'all found today's session valuable. Please keep an eye on your inbox for that recording, for the additional resources. And again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions for Mentor Collective, for Regina, for Abigail, for Kelly. Please let us know. We'd be happy to answer them for you. And thank you so much again for joining. Thank you, our presenters. You were fantastic. So much information. So great. Best of luck, everyone, with your orientation strategy, your recruitment strategy going into your next program. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.